Good morning. Welcome to First Universalist Society in Franklin. I'm Andy Macher, a member of your worship committee, and I'm glad to see you all this morning. Before we begin, I invite you to turn off or silence your devices if you haven't done so already. This morning, as we gather in this space of fellowship, I hope you find solace and rest, rejuvenation and connection, a moment of peace and the strength to carry on. Wherever you have been this week, whether your heart is light or heavy, whoever you are, whoever you love, be present and welcome. If you are visiting with us this morning, we are glad that you are here. Welcome. Please take a moment to sign our guest book in the foyer or our virtual guest book online. You'll find a link in the chat if you're on Zoom. After service, please gather for cupcakes and celebration directly after the finance talk. And this morning, Mary Dennis, one of our worship committee co-chairs, will be leading our service. And now, let's join our hearts and minds together as we gather for worship.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Andy. Welcome. I'm Mary Dennis, co-chair of the worship committee, and I'm glad you're here with us this morning on this dreary day. But what do they say? April showers, right? As we gather today and together on this last day of April 2023, we come to the special place to be in community, to listen and to be heard, to plan for the future and to celebrate. When we are in a beloved community, all things are possible. I'd like for you to please rise as you are able and join me in singing our first hymn, number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire.
Each Sunday morning, we share a centering ritual with Unitarian Universalists around the world, the lighting of a chalice. This week, our chalice lighting comes to us from Rebecca Savage and is titled The Promise and the Practice. We light our flaming chalice as a beloved people, united in love and thirsting for restorative justice. May it melt away the tethers that uphold discrimination in our midst. May it spark in us a spirit of humility. May it ignite in us a radical love that transforms our energy into purposeful action. This is a chalice of audacious hope. This chalice shines a light on our shared past, signaling our intention to listen deeply, reflect wisely, and move boldly towards our highest ideals. And now please join me in singing our unison affirmation.
Come, Spirit, come, our hearts control. Our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are freed. I now invite Jay Rafferty up, our stewardship chair, to introduce this morning's offering.
Good morning. Thank you, Mary. I'm Jay Rafferty, as Mary indicated, the chair of the Stewardship Committee at FUSF. In recent weeks, we've seen spring emerging with a mix of both sunny and rainy days. We have the latter today. Nature's showing signs of revitalization as trees and flowers bud and a diverse array of colors and bright green sprigs of grass grow again on lawns that were fallow during the winter months. In a similar respect, this has been a busy and energetic season for FUSF. We kicked off our annual stewardship campaign in February, and to date we have received about $234,000 in pledges from 92 households. We are grateful for everybody who has chosen to support the church and its activities through their pledges, but we are still accepting new pledges as we strive to reach our funding goals. Last week, we celebrated the coming of age ceremony for 2 of the young people in our congregation. We've also had special services devoted to the welcoming congregation and climate justice. All of this is a reminder that people come to FUSF for various reasons, and many of us have chosen to join our beloved community and call this our spiritual home. Later today, there will be a congregational conversation to review the budgets for this year and the time ahead, when we hope to fund a search and call a new settled minister. Please join the board and members of the stewardship and finance teams for this discussion. As stewardship chair, I've seen much evidence that the members of FUSF are generous in offering both their time and financial support to this congregation. We are all stewards for FUSF. In order to continue the work of FUSF, I invite you to make a contribution this morning during this time of offering. You can do this by going to the FUSF website and clicking on Give, which will bring up the Tithely app on your phone or computer to make electronic donations. Alternatively, you can send a check in the mail to the FUSF treasurer at the Meeting House address. And for those of you in the sanctuary, you can add your contribution as the offering plates are passed. Thank you for your generosity.
If you were here last summer on August 21st, you've already heard this sermon. But don't leave. Chances are you may not remember it, or even maybe remember if you were here. But if you stay, hopefully some of it will sound familiar and the time spent will be worthwhile. I know you came for the budget meeting and the party afterwards anyway, so excuse me. We are a church community with a passion for world change and social justice. I like that about FUSF. And it's one reason I started attending services here and eventually joined. And it's also a reason why I signed up, along with others from FUSF, to take an anti-racism course called Beloved Conversations. You may have heard about it. Some of you were even in the course with me. It's a faith-based curriculum developed by Meadville Lombard Seminary in Chicago. Our group began in the fall of 2020 with a virtual course called Within. And some of us continued into the fall of 2021 with the subsequent course called Among. Very simply put, excuse me, the Within part of the course is about working within ourselves towards personal change. The Among part of the course offers a path for congregations to become the anti-racist, beloved communities that they aspire to be by focusing on the theological and the spiritual. This Unitarian Universalist anti-racism curriculum helps participants explore the assumptions and behaviors that maintain the status quo. Our group had learned about the work we needed to do within ourselves, and now it was time to bring it among to all of you. But a lot of change happened here, and it wasn't all fun. Our minister decided to leave. We started a search for an interim minister. Some people left. Our new interim, Rev Bev, who's actually here, yes, arrived. New people came. And during all of this, we decided as a Beloved Conversations group to slow the pace of our engagement with the entire congregation about how together we might work toward becoming an anti-racist community. Excuse me. Because it is work, and work requires clear focus, goal setting, and collaboration. And while we're trying to boldly move forward during an unsettled time, maybe now isn't the time to set our sights on hard new goals. Or is it? Well, I think it's imperative that we regularly revisit and build upon our beloved conversations about anti-racism and radical inclusion and collective liberation, and continue to reflect on what this means for us as a community, which is why I'm back up here today. As I made my way through the Beloved Conversations curriculum and joined in discussions with my FUSF group, we reflected on how this spiritual, meaning-making work encourages us to look at what we learned growing up and how we need to unlearn much of what we thought meant being a good white person. My mother taught me and my sister and my brother that all people are the same, regardless of their skin color. And this was a progressive way of thinking compared to the society she was brought up in down south. We needed to treat everyone the same and just be nice to them. Do unto others, right? Yet, this philosophy denies the history, the struggles, and heritage of people of color. We unknowingly disregard their unique stories, and we need to listen to those stories. Our Beloved Conversations group learned that we are all swimming in the waters of white privilege, and that we as white people benefit from that status quo. and we need to acknowledge it. And by acknowledging it, we come to the realization that by lifting up the underprivileged, the underserved, the marginalized, we lift up everyone. We learned that it is necessary to step back from controlling, questioning, having expectations of exceptionalism and perfection. And by doing so, we center Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC. This requires vulnerability, humbleness, self-care, and yes, change. So here's the challenge. What does it really take for individuals and congregations to become anti-racist? What if we begin within ourselves? And this brings me to my story and why my sermon this morning is called Being an Anti-Racist, an Actor's Perspective. I'm an actor, but I'm no expert, and I never will be. I consider myself to be a lifelong learner. I read, train, I take classes, I rehearse, I work as much as I can. Mostly I audition, and audition, and audition. And I've trained in different methods and techniques: Shakespeare, movement, voice and breath work, clowning, mask work, and even the Suzuki method. One wonderful acting instructor's method was partly based on the Toltec wisdom book, The Four Agreements. And as I take that acting training and apply it to the stage, I realize that I can't help but compare it to anti-racist training. There are many parallels. Take the Four Agreements. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. Impossible? Well, I don't know about you, but I keep trying, and trying to keep those agreements is a daily struggle. And it's not just with the people I love, but even with my dog. I bought that soft, plush, expensive lamb chop toy for you to snuggle, not just eviscerate. How can you do this to me? Now, I'm pretty sure I can't change my rambunctious Australian Shepherd into a snuggle bunny. He's 2.5 years old now, and I'm still trying. But I can change myself, my expectations of a calm snuggle pup, to my acceptance of his madcap, independent qualities. Yes, adhering to these four agreements, becoming an anti-racist, and finding personal excellence in acting or in any aspiration are goals that require constant and vigilant work. And applying those four agreements to becoming an anti-racist and a good actor is essential, but incredibly difficult, because it does require change within ourselves. Just like becoming an anti-racist, acting requires staying in relationship, active listening, believing people's stories, embracing change, being aware of your body and its reactions, and being able to use somatic practices to let go of tension and to relax. And both types of training require being able to sit in discomfort. You never know what's going to happen in live theater. Both require honesty, trust, vulnerability, letting go of perfection and ego, teamwork, accountability, and forgiveness. Both also require that we as white people step aside and let those who have been underrepresented shine. The Four Agreements acting teacher I mentioned before had one main instruction that he taught. He always said, "Find the love." During scenes of dysfunction and chaos, a heated argument, or even castigating yourself in character. And somehow, magically, whenever we did what he said, when we found the love, everything became much more interesting, true, and genuine. And isn't everything so much more interesting when love is involved? Let's look at the 4 agreements again. Here's a brief description of each. Be impeccable with your word. Use the power of your word in direction of truth and love. Don't take anything personally. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Don't make assumptions. Find the courage to express what you really want. Communicate clearly to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. This one agreement can completely transform your life. Always do your best. Under any circumstances, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Wow, this is all about finding love, isn't it? Love of others and love of self. And isn't that what our Unitarian Universalist values are all about? Just look at the very first principle. We believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That speaks love to me. Dominic Norris mentioned in his statement of faith during last Sunday's coming of age service that just recently FUSF adopted the 8th principle. And here it is. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse and multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Again, love for others and love for self. Personally, I believe that love has a lot to do with respect. An actor can't get on stage without fully respecting and loving her character, even if that character is unlikable. I know that I need to believe my character's story, and to believe my character's story, to fully embody that role, whether the playwright has written that story into the script or even if I've created it. Every character has reasons for their behavior, and finding those reasons is my job as an actor. I need to tap into my personal emotions to figure out how I feel about that story and how those feelings manifest in my body. This is true vulnerability. The ability to reveal our true selves creates trust within a cast of actors and with the audience, and with people in our lives off the stage. Believing others' stories, whether in life or on the stage, demands deep respect and active listening. It demands staying in relationship and knowing that it's not all about us and our egos. We know that all things eventually change. Ministers come and go. No live theater performance is ever the same. And when we learn to get used to the ground shifting beneath our feet, we can learn to let go of perfection and not beat ourselves up when we make mistakes and when we forget a line or lose a place. We can learn that self-care is essential for self-love. I also believe that love has a lot to do with accountability. Just like an actor can't be in the spotlight without being accountable, we can't truly become anti-racist without respecting BIPOC and holding ourselves accountable for our role in a white privileged society. Like I said before, this means acknowledging that we as white people benefit the most from our white privileged society, by our white privileged society, by the status quo. And this is hard. But we crave hard change because we know that even though we are benefiting, we are also suffering because others are suffering. Writer and educator Mia Mingus wrote, "Proactively taking accountability for our actions is an important way we can build trust with the people in our lives. It is a practice that demonstrates our character, integrity, capacity for self-reflection, and the kinds of values that we are committed to. It is a practice of interdependence, a way to care for those who love and ourselves, and shows that we have done our own internal work to take responsibilities for our actions. Accountability requires change, and you cannot change other people or dogs, only yourself. Just as an actor needs to constantly embrace change by expecting the unexpected, we too can create change one relationship at a time, one story at a time, by showing up with deep listening and realizing that our courageous vulnerability is the path to trust, to wholeness, and eventually to a world of anti-racism, radical inclusion, collective liberation, and yes, beloved community. Let it be so. Please rise as you are able and join me in singing our final hymn, number 300, With Heart and Mind. Listen again to the beautiful words we just sang together. With heart and mind and voice and hand, may we this time and place transcend, to make our purpose understood, a mortal search for mortal good, a firm commitment to the goal of justice, freedom, peace for all. Please remain standing as we sing our farewell song, Carry the Flame of Peace and Love until we meet again.